now. The MBTA may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, and/or transcript. By continuing attendance with this virtual public meeting, you consent to participate in a recorded event. If you're not comfortable being recorded, please turn off your camera and keep your microphone muted, or you may choose to excuse yourself from the meeting. Other important notes, whether you record or not, your microphone and webcam are automatically displayed upon entering this meeting. The meeting will be open to questions and answers at the end of each formal presentation, and please take time to respond to our survey. Your feedback is important. Next slide. So for today's agenda, we'll begin as usual with welcome and introductions. We'll go through Zoom directions, give our RTAG update. Then Laura Brailsford, the Assistant General Manager of System-Wide Accessibility, will give updates. We will have Alexandra Hallowell, the Director of Transit Priority, give updates on bus lane and bus stop enforcement. Then we will have the SWA feedback session, followed by the ride updates given by Michelle Styler, the Chief of Paratransit.
Stop. What the hell?
And then we will have a ride feedback session and some closing remarks. Zoom directions for ASL interpreters. Our ASL interpreters tonight are Sandy Ligren and Denise Martinez. To view their video, find the interpreter's video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, click the ellipses, then click the pin video option. This will keep the interpreter's video on your screen. Zoom directions for cart captioning. Our cart captioner tonight is Denise Gracia. To start viewing closed captioning, click closed caption with the CC icon. A tip is to click and drag the closed captioning to move its positioning in the meeting window. To adjust the caption size, click the upward arrow next to Start Video / Stop Video. Click Video Settings, then Accessibility, and move the slider to adjust the caption size. Zoom directions for technical questions. If you have a technical question about Zoom or the features of the meeting, please use the chat function. Our technical assistant will attempt to troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nora Nagel, one of the RTAG co-chairs, to give an update on what RTAG has been up to. Take it away, Nora.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. So welcome to the January 2025 Rider Transportation Access Group meeting, also known as RTAG. We're a community-based group that advises the MBTA on transportation matters impacting people with disabilities and older adults. You'll hear a presentation later about a new Massachusetts law now permitting public transit agencies to use bus-mounted cameras to issue fines for illegally parking in designated bus lanes and bus stops. We want to emphasize how this law will enhance the safety of individuals with disabilities. For example, when bus stops are blocked, individuals who are blind or have low vision may have to step off the bus directly into traffic lanes.
There's a new.
Go ahead, Nora.
Increasing the risk of being struck by vehicles. Furthermore, blocked bus stops can obstruct access to ramps for wheelchair users and those with mobility impairments, making it difficult to board or exit safely. We want to acknowledge that our advocacy efforts were supported by the Daniels-Feingold plaintiffs, the Boston Center for Independent Living, and Transportation for Massachusetts, T4MA. You will also hear more from the RIDE team about the new contract that the MBTA has secured with Spare, a provider of mobility operations software. This contract aims to optimize the MBTA's paratransit operations by improving scheduling accuracy through real-time vehicle location tracking, specific vehicle requirements, customer wait times, and service performance metrics, issues that riders have faced in recent years. We want to emphasize that RTAG's RIDE subcommittee will continue to collaborating closely with the RIDE team to gather feedback during the testing and implementation phases. A couple of weeks ago, RTAG, in collaboration with the Disability Law Center and the Boston Center for Independent Living, introduced a bill to penalize transportation network drivers who discriminate against passengers with disabilities using service animals. We want to thank Representative Christine Barber for sponsoring this bill. The legislation would amend existing state law to impose fines of up to $500 for a first offense, $750 for a second offense, and $1,000 for a third offense. This law aims to decrease the number of ongoing refusals of service to individuals accompanied by service animals. We will drop the link to the bill in the chat and let people know when there will be a hearing and when we are looking for people to provide testimony. Lastly, RTAG is working with the Boston Region Metropolitan Planning Organization to reduce street fatalities and serious injuries by systematically improving road safety. The Vision Zero plan will outline data-informed strategies, policies, and infrastructure improvements designed to enhance the safety and work towards eliminating fatalities and serious injuries on our region's roadways. The Boston Region MPO is collecting feedback on safety concerns from residents, workers, or commuters through their Transportation Concerns Survey and online comment map by January 31, 2025. We'll drop the links to the survey and to the comment map in the chat. And you can find more information about Vision Zero at bostonmpozero.com, which will also be in the chat. And I'll turn it back over to Kat.
Thank you so much, Nora. Next slide. I'm now going to hand it over to Laura Brelsford, the Assistant General Manager for System-Wide Accessibility, to give updates. Go ahead, Laura.
Thanks, Kat, and Happy New Year to everyone here tonight. Building off on what Nora was sharing, there is a lot to look forward to in 2025 with respect to accessible public transit. I really wanted to use my time tonight to just give you a sneak peek at some of the milestones we're really excited about. And on the screen is a photo of an in-person strategic planning session we held last year with a number of folks here tonight. I'm excited. All right, so first and foremost, after being in a relatively long design cycle, we have a number of major station upgrades moving forward. So if you attended our November or December meeting, you may remember me reporting out that we've got now 4 additional accessible Green Line stops on the D branch: Beaconsfield, Waban, Chestnut Hill, and Elliott stations. In addition, late last year, we celebrated a partial opening of Winchester Commuter Rail Station. Early this year, leading into the spring, we're going to be opening 2 new fully accessible stations, and we're going to be completing the work at both Winchester and Worcester Union. The 2 new stations that are going to come online as accessible are North Wilmington and Natick Center, both of which have been under construction for a while now. Also on the commuter rail, we're going to be celebrating the opening of 8 stations of interim mini high platforms that will provide accessible boarding for the first time ever. The first 4 of those to come online will be at Wolsey Square, West Bedford, Franklin, and Walpole, with another 4 following behind this spring and summer. In addition to all of that work happening on the commuter rail, we've got some really big things happening in our rapid transit system as well. Specifically, we're going to move some mega projects into construction. The 2 that I am personally most excited about include the downtown crossing elevator project, which will end up yielding the first ever fully accessible connection between our red and orange lines, as well as the full renovation of our historic Symphony station on the Green Line. In the image on the right side of your screen is a rendering of the remodeled Symphony station. In addition to those very, very large station upgrades, we've got a lot of other really fun stuff happening. So one of those is what we call our hands-free Fairgate pilot. So this is a innovative solution. We've essentially been working to invent over the last 5 years that will allow people who carry a certain type of Charlie card to walk or wheel up to a Fairgate, and without needing to tap the card on the target, the gate will open. Sort of like the easy pass solution that many people enjoy when they're on the highway. We're gonna be rolling this out at between 7 and 10 stations starting in April as part of a small pilot, and assuming everything goes smoothly, we will be expanding this solution system-wide. And on the slide here, there's a photo of some testing we did last fall where one of our staff using a wheelchair is approaching the fair gates with the fair gate opening using this new credential. Speaking of innovative solutions, we're also really excited to be getting to pilot some accessible wayfinding technology. This is a technology called Navalens, which has grown in popularity over the last few years. This is deployed in several European systems, as well as portions of New York and New Jersey transit system. Essentially, Navalens uses QR codes that are strategically placed throughout a station environment or a bus stop to provide audible navigation instruction to a user's phone. So our colleagues in our technology department have been working very, very hard to get our first 2 pilot locations, North Station and Kenmore, up and running. So a lot of these QR codes are popping up around those stations. If you happen to be walking through, keep an eye out for them. And we're going to be piloting this solution again starting later this winter with a small group, and if successful, we would plan to expand for there. One thing that's very cool about this is that in addition to providing the information accessibly, the information is also available in 34 languages. And here is a photo of one of our RTAG members, in fact, scanning a computer rail platform, looking at the instructions on their phone with a close-up of their cell phone screen showing what those instructions are, which are then broadcast audibly if the user chooses to have them be. All right, so that's what's coming. One thing that is already in place that I want to let folks know about is we have another pilot that just kicked off at Forest Hill Station. And this is a pilot that includes the installation of smallish digital screens located at each and every elevator entrance at this station. These screens are designed to do a few things. Primarily, provide real-time information on the status of the elevator. If the elevator is out of service or is going to be out of service due to planned maintenance, the screen will display detailed alternate service information. And if the elevator is operational, that screen will provide information on the status of our elevator system-wide. So this solution is really designed to make sure users are getting the information where they need it and that it's highly visible to them. So if you are at or near Forest Hills, please check us out. And to provide feedback on the pilot, you can do so by going to mbta.com/elevator screens. And on the slide is a photo of one of our elevators at Forest Hills with the digital panel off just to the right of the elevator doors. All right. And in a second, you're going to get to hear about one of the initiatives we're most excited about from my colleague Alexandra. But before I turn it over to her, I just want to remind everybody that if at any point you want to learn more about any of these efforts or anything else we have in the pipeline, there's a few great ways to do that. First, if you haven't recently, check out our website, mbta.com/accessibility. There's a ton of information and resources there. For our latest initiatives report, which includes updates on all of the notable projects we have in the pipeline, you can go to mbta.com/accessibility-initiatives. We just put out our most recent report in December. And if you haven't already, I would encourage you to sign up for one of our monthly newsletters by going to mbta.com/SWA sign up. And then, of course, one of the best ways to stay engaged is by continuing to join these meetings. The next RTAG meeting will be on February 7th from 3 to 5. And as always, I want to remind everyone, if you are out in the system or preparing to be and have any questions or concerns or accommodations, we do want to hear from you. And there's really 3 great ways to get in touch with us. The first is our call center, and that number is 617-222-3200. And of course, there's 7-Eleven for folks who rely on Relay. You can also file feedback online by going to mbta.com and clicking on the support link at the top of your screen. Or you can always send us a tweet by going to @mbta. All right, and with that, I have the pleasure of introducing my colleague, Alexandra Hollowell, who again is here to speak about one of the initiatives that we've been looking forward to for quite a while and that many folks here tonight have helped to advocate for. Alexandra.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to talk about this particular initiative. Hi, my name is Alex Hallowell. I'm the Director of Transit Priority here at the MBTA. Generally, my team oversees the design and implementation of bus lanes and other transit supportive infrastructure working across the MBTA and also with our municipal partners who own and operate the roadways, with the goal of protecting our bus service from traffic and delays. It's one of the reasons that my team is going to be, I think, sort of leading the planned rollout of a new camera enforcement plan at the TEAC. Could we go to the next slide? So I think it will come as no shock to any of you that the current landscape of enforcement is poor. So the MBTA has over 7,000 bus stops, more than 42 miles of bus lanes across 11 municipalities, and we have an additional 50 miles of bus lanes that we're planning over the next, 5 years. As many of you know, block bus stops are a huge safety risk. Riders who can't access the curb, who need access to the curb, are left in the street or left behind. Both are entirely unacceptable, and we have very little mechanism to address it as it arises on the street. Until now, we really relied on local police for enforcement of either our transit facilities, the red bus lanes, or blocked bus stops, which has been unsuccessful. So we're really excited on the next slide that we got a surprise, honestly, at the end of 2024, that the Massachusetts legislature passed a bill that had been pending, but hadn't been taken up during the regular session. And it was signed into law about, I think, 2 weeks ago tonight, which creates a new camera enforceable violation. This allows the MBTA, RTAs, or any municipality served by the MBTA or RTAs to enforce bus stops and bus lanes using camera enforcement. This includes bus-mounted cameras and also stationary cameras that we could install at transit facilities or at particular bus stops. And yeah, this will be the first time that we're allowed to really enforce our facilities in the way that we've been asking local police enforcement to assist with for, I think, time immemorial. So I will say notably, one thing that was left out of this bill, in which we are still working to get worked back into the bill, is, as the bill is currently written, we cannot ticket anyone operating in a bus lane. So that would be someone driving illegally along the length of a bus lane. This is, I think, less disruptive, generally speaking, than stopping or standing, which will be allowed. But it is something that we would really like to see happen. I did just see today that there's also a proposal for speed camera enforcement, which hopefully some combination of these efforts will advance that ability. All right, next slide. A major sticking point, sort of as this has been, percolating over the last several years, has been concerns about privacy protections. And I do want to say that's something we're taking very seriously, and it is something that is codified in the law. There are a number of sort of standards and rules about how the photographs taken for enforcement can and cannot be used, and how data may be recorded and kept over time. So we'll be doing, I think, a lot of work, particularly with municipalities, and I imagine with the advocacy community, to make sure that the program that we put together meets everyone's expectations and that we're protecting everyone's privacy. Next slide. So there's a couple other considerations I just wanted to sort of throw out there today. As this program moves to launch, there's going to be a minimum 60-day public awareness campaign. I think we've seen a lot of peer agencies, as they've launched these programs, essentially the first time someone gets a ticket, they get a warning saying, hi, we noticed that you did something that you used to not get ticketed for. We're going to be ticketing you if you do this again. Again, we're working through the regulations and we're working through the launch plan. But the goal is to get people to comply. And I want to say it is not to generate revenue. This program is not going to be designed to generate funds for the MBTA. The goal is compliance with our facilities, so that individuals are getting out of the way of our bus stops so folks can access the curb as they need, and that these facilities that we're building together with municipalities are free from blockages, and riders can get where they're going as designed. So yeah, I think putting together this the slide deck tonight was kind of entertaining. We haven't actually done an internal team meeting yet with everyone who's going to be working on the launch. So I don't have a discrete timeline that I can share or really specific plans, but I'm happy to speak to broad brush sort of what we're planning generally, and also the plans for public touch points into the future and opportunities to hear about what we're developing and to weigh in on the plans. So I think that was my last slide, unless I forgot about another one. No. So happy to answer questions anyone may have.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexandra. So now we will take questions or comments for SWA or transit priority. To indicate that you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator will unmute attendees to ask questions in the order that they raise their hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. Using the keyboard, you can click the Alt and Y key buttons. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And I see some hands going up. I'm actually going to start with a question in the chat from Riemann Jordan, who says, this is for Laura. Need clarification on how hands-free works with a guest. Will it require passengers going through at the same time?
That is a really great question. One we're going to be talking about internally as we figure out sort of how to get the this type of Charlie card into the hands of folks who will be benefiting from the gate. I mean, certainly having a guest travel right behind you as you're passing passing through the gate will always be an option for folks that travel regularly with the same guest or PCA. There may be other opportunities for us to think about designated credentials. So more to come on that, but great question.
Okay, thanks, Laura. And Abby Swain, you are first.
Hi there. Thank you, Alexandra, for that joyous news. This is something I've been trying to work with local officials on, but they keep saying it's whack-a-mole and have a sort of defeatist attitude at this point. So question is, are you going to do outreach to the municipalities, either to the transportation boards where they are authorized and exist, or the transportation staff, or some other segment of the local government, like local police, on this initiative?
Yeah, so currently, again, we're still drawing up plans, but currently the plan is to work with the municipal staff that my team works with sort of day to day, and to take the guidance that they have about how we would shop this around, you know, whether it's wise to bring it to more public bodies or how we want to get the word out about this policy. I do want to say that because this is a state level law, we're not going to be going to those transportation boards and asking like permission to do this in their municipality, for example. This is something that we're authorized at the state level to do. Of course, we want to do it in conjunction with municipal staff to make it as effective as possible. And we anticipate that they're going to be really strong allies in this work. But yeah, for the time being, I think we're anticipating some working groups to just sort of guide the rollout of this, as municipalities can also launch their own programs if desired. We want to make sure that they're consistent.
They might just be good conduits
Oh,
for outreach to
100%.
the general public. And do the buses already have cameras, perhaps for, documenting incidents, forward-facing cameras? Okay.
Yeah, so there's actually, I was chatting with one of our technical leads today. I think there's at least 4, if not like 6 cameras currently on various points of the bus. Most of them are oriented for security. The type of cameras that are typically used for this type of an enforcement program are license plate readers. And they're run through typically some sort of a detection program that is able to be calibrated for different types of violations depending on the local laws. So one of the first questions we have is whether the existing cameras that we have available to us can accomplish that well enough that we could rely on them, or whether we'll need to add new equipment to the vehicles. So we're anticipating working on that through the spring, and then building the program out from there with the lessons we learned from that.
Excellent. One more tidbit is that I fairly regularly see license plates that have the sort of cases over them that are intended to thwart being read. I don't know if there's a way to angle the buses on the cameras on the buses to, you know, get a better view of the underlying data on the license plates. But anyway, you know about that, I can see.
It's actually on our list of things to ask as we do a selection process for a vendor. So yes, we're thinking about it, certainly.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abby. I'm gonna hop to a question in the chat from Nora. Where does that revenue generated by enforcement go?
So the bill actually details this. So the individual entities doing an enforcement program, so that might be the MBTA, an RTA, or one of the local municipalities can recuperate the costs to stand up an enforcement program and to cover the operating costs, you know, staff time, that sort of thing. But any additional funds go into the Massachusetts Transportation, like general fund, I think is what it's called, trust fund, something like that. And so that's just a giant pot of state funding that goes to many, many different uses related to transportation.
Great, thank you. Dylan, you're next.
Thank you, and thank you all. Sounds like there's some great work going on for 2025. My question is for system-wide accessibility regarding the Green Line and all-door boarding. I'll be honest, I'm not on the Green Line as much as I used to be. And last week, I noticed like 2 or 3 times, sometimes all the doors would open, sometimes all the doors wouldn't. What is the current policy? Because I thought that it had shifted to all-door boarding and drivers weren't necessarily responsible for fare collection anymore. Is that still the case? Because I don't think I need to remind anyone on this call what happens when you stand in front of a door that you're expecting to open and it's just not opening. Thanks.
So great question, and I would ask if anyone on my team has additional details to feel free to jump in here. But I believe at this point there has not been any meaningful change to our boarding protocols on the Green Line. One thing that has changed is that, well, 2 things. One, that you can now pay with contactless payment options on the Green Line, and the other is that at a handful of stations, we have fare enforcement officers out to help verify that people are paying their fares and to help answer any questions about the system or our fare policies. In terms of boarding, particularly accessible boarding, the policy is the same in that anybody has the right to use the accessible doors of the train, which are generally in the center of our low floor accessible car. There are parts of the day where those doors may be closed by default, but the motor persons are required to open them upon request for anyone. And then to assist the individual with paying their fare if needed. If anybody runs into a situation where that does not happen, that's exactly the type of thing we would want to hear about so we could take action. But that is the standard operating procedure for now. I will ask again if anyone in my team has additional details they want to share about our current process or the future of alter boarding. Feel free to jump in here.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious because I thought with contactless it was supposed to be all door boarding for the Green Line at all stops. And so that was really my question.
I'll jump in, Laura. That is the future that the MBTA is looking forward to at some point. But currently, the only stops where all door boarding is always in effect is the GLX stops. So at GLX stations, which I'm not going to try to list off the top of my head all of them, but those are the ones that are always going to be all door boarding based off the nature of the platforms there. And then Laura got it just right for the rest of the system. Still, there are times when all doors will open to help with just getting as many people on as possible. So usually you'll see that at rush hour. But at any time, if they don't open, you can press that button on the side and then the motor person will open the door for you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. I'm going to hop back to the chat for a question from Hope. Hope writes, I work for the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind as an assistive tech specialist. I'm a totally blind guide dog user. Are you looking for testers for NaviLens? If so, who would I contact? Also, is there a way to make the elevator screens accessible to all, blind and visually impaired, as well as sighted riders?
Yes, those are two great questions. So, with respect to participating in the NaviLens pilot, the team has not yet fully developed the list of participants, so we would love to talk more with you to see if you would be a good fit to be a pilot participant, and if for whatever reason that doesn't work out, we would love to still meet with you and get your feedback on the system. The best way to get in touch about this is send us an email at accessibility@mbta.com, and somebody from my team will follow up with you early next week, if not tomorrow. In terms of the elevator screens, yes, this is something we've talked a lot about because for folks who may not be aware, one thing that we've really driven at the MBTA over the last few years is a policy to help ensure that any digital information we're putting out there has an audio component. We really recognized a few years ago that with the proliferation of digital contents and digital screens, we were really risking leaving a number of our riders behind, specifically those who cannot see the digital content. So the vast majority of our signage has a digital option. I'm sorry, an audible option. With respect to this pilot, the reason that we were not able to deliver an audio feature is simply there was no hardware available that would support that feature with this specific screen size. However, what we're really looking at the pilot right now is this level of detailed information useful to riders? Or is it not necessary given that this information is available elsewhere? If we decide to scale up, figuring out a way to do that with an audio feature will be a very, very high priority for us. I'm not sure that the hardware exists out there, but that absolutely is something we've talked a lot about. We recognize how critical it is to make sure these improvements are available to everyone.
Great, thank you. Erin, you're next.
Hi, this is my first time attending a meeting like this, and I am fairly new to the Boston area. So forgive me if this isn't the right place or anything to bring this up, but I had a question regarding accessibility at the curb. I noticed, especially during this last week with the snow and the ice, that the piles of snow and ice have been blocking access to the actual bus doors. And so we're having to stand on the street in order to access the bus. And that is risky. The buses are very slippery at the doors, and it's just an added risk that is I'm not sure how or whether that's been addressed or is in discussion to do something about the piles of snow specifically at the bus stops.
Yes, no, this is a great comment. And I will say, historically, concerns around bus stop accessibility and station accessibility in the winter has been one of our biggest concerns and sources of complaints. Ironically, over the last few years, we have not gotten that much snow. So, it's only been within the last few days we've started really to hear from riders about it in a meaningful way. But because we recognize, going back a number of years, that this is such a barrier, the T has done a lot of work here, but there's so much more as a network and with our municipal partners that needs to be done. For your awareness, the MBTA, so the the vast majority of our bus stops are located on city sidewalks, so they are generally the responsibility of the city or town that they're located in. And each town has their own snow removal ordinance. And admittedly, some communities do a much better job than others. Going back about a decade, the MBTA decided that it would take responsibility for removing snow along all of our high priority, high frequency routes, which is just over 15 routes. Trying to be responsive to the needs of our riders, recognizing the fact though that we can't clear all of the snow from all of the communities we serve. So I would say to you, if your stop is located along what, or for anyone, if your stop is located along one of our high frequency routes, and Lisa, if you don't mind, can you drop the list of high frequency routes into the chat when you get a minute? If your stop is located along one of these routes, we definitely want to hear from you regarding what stop you encountered a barrier, what time of day, and a description. And we will send our crews back out there to handle that. If your stop was located on another route, the best course of action is to reach out to the municipality or the city and town where that stop was located and let them know how this has impacted your travels. That currently is the division of labor. Every year we have a meeting with our municipal partners to remind them of how important this is and really what we need from them in order to keep our system safe. And that's made a bit of a difference, but again, we recognize that that's not consistently the case across the entire network.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys, everybody, for all of the work you're doing and all of the help.
Thank you for attending and for sharing your feedback.
Thanks, Erin. I am going to turn it over to Call, is it? I know you had a chat, but I'm going to turn it over to your raised hand.
Okay, I just unmuted myself. I'm sorry for coming a little late. I don't know if you guys covered this or whatever, but I know like when the MBTA had the newest green line, I asked Rob if he knew like when the new like reduced fares cards would be accepted at those contactless um, devices on the trains, like on the all door stops.
I'm not sure I understand when you talk about the new green line, do you mean the new trolleys that are under design right now?
Yeah, I was just saying that's when I asked the question. So it's not related to the question. It's just I was just wondering with the reduced fare cards, like when they'll be accepted for the, on the green lines and stuff like that that have the contactless devices at all the doors, like when those will start to be accepted by the reduced fares or the tap cards or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay. So two
Mhm.
things. One, there are contactless payment targets located throughout many of our I'm sorry, on all of our buses today, as well as our Green Line trains. And you can actually link your reduced fare card to your contactless payment options. So typically a credit card or a smartphone. There's a multi-step process for doing this.
Mhm.
If you're interested in that, there's a guide on our website for how to link your reduced fare card to your contactless card or phone. The website is a great option, or you can call our call center, and if for whatever reason you get stuck, you can always email my team
Mhm.
at accessibility@mbta.com.
Mhm.
In terms of your other question about when will these targets be available at all doors for Green Line, Saphira, I don't know if you know the answer to that regarding sort of when those will all be online. Um,
I do not know the answer. I'm sorry.
okay, but that's something we can absolutely keep this group apprised of. But yeah, if you're interested in contactless, there's absolutely a way that you can link your card today. But as you know, as you likely know, the targets are not available at the accessible door today. So for many people boarding the Green Line, if they wish to pay, they will need to get some support from the motor person or the
Mhm.
fare enforcement officer.
Yeah, I just don't want them to think I'm fare evading when I, have to go through the lower the lower car, and I'm not able to climb up the steps,
Yeah.
to tap my card on the, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah,
stuff.
no, we recognize that's sort of a major gap within our system.
Mhm.
I'm hopeful that you haven't had the experience where somebody assumes you're fare evading. I mean, our motor
Mhm.
persons, our operators are trained to be aware that some people just cannot get to that upper deck to pay.
Mhm.
But we recognize that can be an awkward situation too. So,
Mhm.
do let us know if you have any specific situations that you feel uncomfortable with or issues with motor persons. But
Mhm.
a bunch of folks are working on deploying the technology to the rear door
Okay.
when that's feasible.
Okay, great. So that'll eventually, like the monthly passes and everything, that'll be able to be accepted on those doors.
Yes, that
Okay.
is definitely the game plan. And then certainly with our next generation Green Line train, all of our doors will be accessible and there'll be multiple accessible payment options.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for the question. And then I'm just going to read two chats, and then just due to time, we can hand it over to Michelle for the ride portion. But related to what we were just talking about, Abby sent in a chat that says, regarding rear door boarding on the D and C lines, I have yet to see any enforcement of failure to pay fares at rear doors, nor have I seen any outreach staff doing rider education. Very rarely do I see riders using contactless payment at equipped rear doors. There was more initially after rollout of that option, but it seems that folks have stopped voluntarily paying because they see so many others get away without paying. I say this not to introduce awkwardness or cost to riders with disabilities. Example, I have never seen a driver admonish a wheelchair user to pay, but to aid the MBTA in generating revenue. And then Alex had to hop off, but she said, "Thank you all for your interest in the rollout of the camera enforcement program. I need to head out to handle little kid bedtimes, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have or hear thoughts you'd like to share about what the program should entail. My email is ahallowell, HALLOWELL @mbta.com, and I will come back to provide updates once we've got the launch program up and running." Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful questions. Next slide. I am going to turn it over to Michelle, the Chief of Paratransit Services, to talk about the ride. Go ahead, Michelle.
So great, thank you. I thought you would appreciate this cover page here. It has several images that were taken during the fall photo shoot. Wanted to thank all of the RTAG volunteers and the MBTA staff that participated. We really have some great photos, and it's nice to see that we're able to refresh our content. So we have images that include a ride driver assisting a customer with a white cane, a ride driver assisting a customer with a service animal, a ride driver assisting a customer in a power chair on a van lift, and a ride driver holding the door for a customer in a power chair. We go to the next slide. I'm going to start with updates on ridership, and it looks slightly different, the presentation this time around, because I'm looking to combine some of the asks from the RTAG subcommittee and incorporate that into the RTAG general presentation here. So this slide has two charts on ridership. The left slide trends ridership for 2024 and includes trip numbers for October, November, and December. We saw a peak at just under 160,000 trips in October, and then a decline through the holidays, which is consistent with prior years, and seasonal demand. The chart on the right breaks out ridership for October, November, December by dedicated service provider trips, track shifted, or as we refer to it as integrated trips, and ride flex demand trips. Non-dedicated service providers delivered 44% or 64,000 trips for the ride in the month of December. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this slide has two charts that compare 2024 performance to 2023 performance. The left slide tracks on-time performance for both years. We experienced a low of 85% on-time performance in May and September of 2023. We achieved our goal of 90% in January of 2024 and have maintained a 91% on-time performance or greater since the driver wage increases were implemented in April of 2024. The chart on the right trends track hold times for both 2023 and 2024. These improvements were achieved through investment at track, organizational changes, wage adjustments, and process and procedural updates through the summer of 2023. We achieved our goal of hold times below 2 minutes in August of 2023 and have maintained hold times well below a minute since then. We can go to the next slide. This slide identifies on-time performance for the quarter, October, November, and December. For these months, we delivered on-time performance of 94%, 94%, and 93%. Another measure of performance that we track are trips over 120 minutes. They're tracked as a percentage per 1,000 trips. There's been a significant reduction in these occurrences since we have increased the number of drivers. Any occurrence will trigger an investigation and root cause analysis. It's also worth sharing that we're drilling down to lesser delays, and we've significantly reduced those as well. Go to the next slide, please. This slide is about call center performance. It shares information about TRAC's performance. The slide on the left tracks hold times for 2024 and provides details for the last 3 months. The hold times are now measured in percentage of a minute. We see a 0.32, a 0.40, and 0.47. So we're below a minute for hold times pretty consistently. The slide on the right trends call volume for 2024. We are fielding nearly 100,000 calls a month, with the last 3 months ranging from 93,000 to 97,000 calls. Go to the next slide, please. So there are several metrics that we use to track call center performance. One of them is the share of calls answered within 2 minutes. Although we have experienced a positive trend, we saw a slight dip for the month of December, which is still well under, still holding 2-hour goals. Can we go to the next slide, please? Here I'd like to just address a couple of updates or share a couple of updates. Thank you, Nora, for introducing and mentioning the SPARE award. We did award the software contract to SPARE after an extended procurement process. I share that because we really wanted to get it right, and we took it slowly and incorporated lessons learned. We anticipate a go live in the fall. And although you'll experience some changes through this process, we're committed to communicating with our customers and being as transparent as possible. Some of the improvements you can expect to see are access to real-time information, customer self-service features, including a mobile application. I know that's eagerly awaited, and improved scheduling. The mobilization includes hiring subject matter experts for accessibility testing. We also intend to collaborate closely with RTAG as we develop messaging, tools, and training for our new software. Another item that I'd like to highlight with you is we have worked closely with the RTAG subcommittee to develop a work plan and to improve the work that we're doing collaboratively to improve service. We've identified opportunities to work together. This is not the full list, but we're looking at procurements, communications, and user tools and testing. The next item I'd like to share with you is an update on staffing. David Hatch has been promoted to Deputy Director of Paratransit Optimization. We're expanding our communications team by 2 staff members and hopeful that they will join in February. These 2 positions are a manager of issues resolution and a senior customer liaison. We will have additional staffing announcements to share with you in the next meeting. And then I'd like to just mention that as we're onboarding new staff, which is pretty exciting, we are looking to onboard, I think it is 9 additional staff members. We saw it as an opportunity to bring additional training to the team. So Elizabeth has worked with system-wide accessibility on a training course that my entire team will participate in for disability rights, history, and experience. We are also partnering with the training and safety team to do emergency management training. We will bring our new staff members into a NTI, or the National Transit Institute, to participate in various degrees of paratransit training. Likely they will start with paratransit operations training. We have staff members that will attend the APTA Mobility Conference. And then we do also participate in internal MBTA training with safety and also quality management. And then lastly, I'd also like to share, we've had some discussions about the building that the MBTA has purchased in Quincy. It's 200 Newport Avenue. We are working with the chief of stations to design space for both track and the mobility center there. And track is planned to move in sooner. The mobility center will require some additional build out. But I'd like to share that this is directly at the North Quincy station stop on the Red Line and easy to get to. I know I rushed through that. So if you have any, I'm happy to take any questions, or if you'd like me to revisit anything, please reach out. Looks like I froze.
We can hear you though.
Okay, I think I'm gonna take my image down. It never freezes in a good position. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. So we will now take questions or comments for the ride. To indicate that you have a question, again, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator will unmute attendees to ask questions in the order that they raise their hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. On the keyboard, you can click the Alt and Y keys. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And Shirley, you are first.
Hello, Shirley.
Shirley, you are muted right now.
Okay, I'm so sorry. It took me just a second to unmute. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Kat. I have a couple of things, Michelle, please.
Yes, I have my notebook out.
Okay, all right. And I'm not a big complainer, as you know, but there's a couple of things that I have to say. So on January 7th, I was traveling back Southwest Airlines from Nashville, Tennessee to Boston. I scheduled the ride for a pickup of 10:45 p.m. as my flight was due to arrive at 10:10 p.m. We boarded the plane on time. Everything was supposed to be on time, but unfortunately, our pilot decided to wait on another flight that had just landed, which kept us grounded because there were people that needed to take our connecting flight to Boston from where they were coming from. So long story short, we were delayed probably a little over an hour. As I could not make a phone call while I was on the plane waiting to take off, I quickly texted my son, who was in Tennessee, gave him the number to the ride, gave him my information, and asked him to please call and let them know that my flight was delayed and that I needed the ride, to come an hour later. When I landed, there was a message from my son telling me that they would not wait for me, that if I was not there at the time of the pickup, then basically too bad. My concern is that this was something totally out of my control. I had no control knowing that the flight was going to be delayed an hour whenever I previously called the ride the day before and gave them my pickup time. In this instance, like I know the policy is that you can't change things the day of, but again, in this case with a flight coming in and that was delayed, and this was, so my pickup time was for 10:45. My son was calling the ride, I'm going to say around 7:45 p.m., which, gave several hours for them to alert the driver and make the change. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. Thank goodness that my daughter was able to come pick me up, and that, I didn't have to try to find another way home. So that's my first complaint slash concern. Number two is this past Saturday, I had called for the ride to take me into Boston for a luncheon with the Bay State Council of the Blind. I reserved the time to be dropped off at the restaurant for 11:45 a.m. My pickup time was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the driver did have two other pickup and drop offs, but I still got to my destination over an hour early. My concern with that is that on a cold, wintry morning, um, if there was no place to go, the restaurant did not open until 11:30. And luckily, there was a Dunkin' Donuts next door that the driver made sure that I was okay. I will say my driver went above and beyond to make sure that I was safe. And he would not leave until he was confident that I was safe. So I have to put that out there. But getting to a destination over an hour early, especially when it's a place that I had no way to get into because the place was not open till a certain time, um, that to me is very concerning.
Thanks, Shirley. Michelle, I'm going to give you a chance to provide any response.
Okay. Well, thank you, Shirley. So a couple things come to mind, and obviously, I would like to separately pull that information, the detailed information, so we can retrieve the phone call and listen to it, and how the point of contact communicated information to both your son and you. Did you eventually contact
I
get to-
did. I did contact the ride whenever my flight landed, and I had gotten into the airport
Mhm, okay.
to ask them if the ride was still there waiting for me,
Mhm.
or were they going to come back for me? And they told me, nope, they were there and I was not, so they had left.
Well, Shirley, that piece is true that a vehicle wouldn't wait. They wait a limited amount of time. But did we deliver you? Did you take the ride to the airport?
I did take the ride to the airport. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
On
we have a no strand policy, and you should not have been stranded, and they should have made arrangements to send another vehicle out to you. Obviously that was a challenge and that did not happen. And if you're comfortable giving me those details, I'd like to take them and fully investigate why that didn't occur.
Sure.
The second item about you arriving an hour too early to your luncheon. First of all, let me just start with, I'm sorry to hear about your negative experiences, and I don't ever like to hear that these things occur. It's unfortunate. Sometimes the vehicles do arrive early. It's refreshing to hear how well you were treated by the driver. Uh, I can assure you that as we talk about a software launch, we're going to see more efficient scheduling, where we will see this occur a lot less often. I don't have all the details, and this is another one again where I would like to have a staff member look up what was booked, and then really the actual trip. Not simply to verify the accuracy, but to understand what had happened there and to see if it's something we can prevent in the future. But I will tell you that we had the software vendor on site all week, and we're working toward introducing new software that will allow us to address scheduling more efficiently and to make real-time adjustments in a better manner and again, more efficiently. But
And
can I ask you to share that information with us separately?
of course, yeah. Um, however I need to share it with you, if you need to call me, um, you're welcome to call me at any time, and I can share the information with you as whatever you need.
Kat, could I ask you to be a go-between? Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Shirley, I will reach out to you tomorrow.
Okay, no problem. And I just want to say thank you, Michelle. I know you get a lot of complaints. I know sometimes the complaints that I hear on here, I'm not trying to disrespect or anything to anyone. Um, I just, I guess we all know who have been taking the ride for quite a while, know
Mhm.
how the ride works and what we should expect.
Mhm.
And I just say that I am very grateful for the services that you provide to us. Well, I say us, but the blind community or blind and visually impaired community. I'm very grateful for that. And I respect how the ride works. It's just sometimes in certain instances, as I'm not a complainer, there are a few things that I feel I just need to bring to your attention. So thank you for your time.
Shirley, I appreciate that, and I would encourage everyone, and I know many of you have heard me say that, to reach out, to make sure you submit those complaints, because that's, of course, we do audits and we have some measures in place to track performance, but it's important that we hear about these things so we can address them, so we can understand why they're occurring, and take action to minimize or eliminate some of these incidents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.
I'm trying desperately to get my camera back on and it won't go back on. I'm sorry.
No worries. I'm going to turn to the chat for a couple of questions. Lindsay asks, can you please clarify the ride's policy on service dogs, particularly regarding the inclusion and accommodation of service dogs in training?
Um, it's a broad question with respect to service dogs well, first of all, service dogs should be accommodated. Is there something more specific that you're looking for? No service dog denials ever.
Lindsay, are you able to provide any other info?
I'm here on behalf of SCI Boston and was just told to ask that question, so I don't have any other specific details for you.
Well, Lindsay, happy to follow up in a group discussion. You said you were asking on behalf of somebody, if you'd like to work to set up time to discuss this, because I'm not entirely clear on what the actual question is. But
I think, can service dogs in training, are those still like allowed? Like those won't get denied or approved? I maybe is where she was going with it.
This is Nora. Can I just throw in for 1 second?
Mhm.
Massachusetts law specifically covers service animals in training and affords them the handlers of service animals in training, the same rights as service animal handlers.
Thank you, Nora. And I know that you will be asked limited questions. It would be simply, is this a service animal? And if you acknowledge it's a service animal, the service animal rides.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Lindsay. And Debbie is asking what the difference is between share and track.
Debbie, when you say share, do you mean Spare, the software we were talking about?
I think so. Yes.
Yes, okay. So TRAC is the Ride Access Center. So that's our operations center. The software is what I'm referring to. And the name of the new software that we've awarded to is Spare. And what we've been working with, I think it's about 20 years old. The software we use right now is called Adept. So we will be transitioning from Adept to Spare. And when I use that term track, it's our operations center. It's also referred to as the Ride Access Center. Does that help?
We'll see if she gives us a chat back. What What is Spare used for, or what will Spare be used for?
Okay, the same thing that we do now with Adept. And this is actually maybe a good time to talk about the software a little bit. So Adept software is about 20 years old, and it performs, but there are some limits because of the age of the software. And we've been forced to do a lot of manual workarounds and process and procedural adjustments. The new software, this is software that we use to book your reservations. It's software we use to schedule trips. The dispatchers use the software as well. So it really is the heart of everything that we do, which is why it's so important to have the right software. The software Adept that we have right now, we compile all of the reservations the evening before. And push them into a schedule. And this is different than fixed ride because we're reservation based. So it's more challenging because we build a brand new schedule every day. We batch all of these trips into one schedule for the following day. And that's when people get their notifications about when their trip is arriving or is scheduled for. Spare, the software we have now, would behave a little bit differently. It will do same day optimization. So some of the challenges you hear from us about we schedule the evening before and then the next day we have a lot of cancellations and we have no shows and we may have drivers that call out, and that makes it challenging for us to troubleshoot in real time. The new software will do that troubleshooting for us. There's not manual intervention, a lot less manual intervention needed. So it will optimize the schedule. It will kind of shake the schedule up and then spit out the most efficient schedule for our riders. And we expect our riders to see improved scheduling. Does that help?
Give Debbie a second to respond in the chat. And in the meantime, we just got a chat from Abby that says, Debbie asked if you could explain track a little more.
Okay, sure. And this also may be a good discussion about how we can pull together information at the subcommittee meeting to share with the general group and members of the public. So we contract out all of our service, and you will hear us refer to dedicated service providers, which are, it was National Express, they now go by We Drive You, and veterans. You'll hear us talk about our non-dedicated service providers, which are Uber and Lyft and Userve. We also contract out our scheduling, reservations, and dispatch, and all of that is done by Transdev, the company that operates Track.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
And Abby just wanted to let you know that SCI Boston, which Lindsay referenced before, is a support and advocacy organization for folks with spinal cord injuries, most of whom use wheelchairs. We enjoy collaborating with SWA and RTAG.
That's great. Thank you. And happy to have an advocate come in and speak to our team on behalf of the group.
That's great. And a new couple questions just popped in the chat. Zoo would like to know if there's a way to add more addresses without having to call in during business hours.
Not right now, but you will be able to with the new software.
Great. And Adam asked, do you also use Curb, since I know you used that provider 5 years ago?
We discontinued our relationship with Curb a couple of months ago.
Okay.
They weren't providing a lot of the trips, and we moved on and shifted more of those trips over to Userve.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. Any other questions for Michelle or the ride? These are all wonderful questions. Thank you, everyone. And I'll also open it up for any questions for system-wide accessibility or even bus lane enforcement. All right. I will let folks know that if anything comes up in the meantime, you can always reach out to me or RTAG and share feedback or concerns. And I have a couple of people to follow up with tomorrow. But next slide, Rob. So again, thank you everyone for attending. Our next general membership meeting will be on Thursday, February 27th from 3 to 5. So just notice that time change. We're trying to alternate just so some folks can make it during the afternoon who can't make it during the evening. And just something to look out for. We are planning to have a hybrid meeting in March at the MBTA building. So there will still be virtual access to that meeting. But right now we will plan to have that in March, which is exciting. So hope to see you in person, some of you, but we'll send more information about that as well. And Lisa just dropped in the chat the link to sign up for RTAG newsletters. And that's it. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kat. Nice meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.